Wow. Just wow. I I'm almost beyond words. We'll get to the topic of the thumbnail and just the title in general, but first, this was just gonna probably be just a little section in like my race review for Martinsville in the Cup Series because there was probably not a whole lot to talk about in that. I was probably gonna primarily focus on the Xfinity because that was the most interesting one. Yeah, Ty Gibbs just completely obliterated Brandon Jones for the win. Like I said, with what he did, what Logano did to Byron at Darlington, there's no craftsmanship, there's no class behind it, there's no skill. It just there's nothing neat about that. It is just completely sad and pathetic, especially given the context that Brendan Jones definitely bumped him, he rubbed him, but it was nothing egregious, nothing out of line. Brendan Jones got around him about as good as he possibly could have done at Martinsville given the circumstances and everything. Like this whole thing, this makes me appreciate Brendan Jones a lot more, and I don't even really like him to begin with, but he did everything right. And Ty Gibbs just went in there and just cleaned him out in turn one. Doubled down on it, and then compared himself to Jesus. Basically, he referenced the Jesus passage or something. It's like, what the fuck? What does that have to do with anything? That is insane. That is just batshit crazy. That is Jason Jacoby levels of just nonsense. Why is that even being brought up at all? That's a horrific just statement and just absolute stupidity. Again, this is the same person that almost annihilated pit crew members at Texas because Ty Dillon got in him on pit road. That wasn't really intentional. It was just more of like a racing thing. But Ty Gibbs was like, all right, I'm just gonna fucking turn left, and that was bad. That was ridiculous. And yeah, I'm amazed that there was like that 1 or 2 month span where I sort of liked him. I don't know what I was thinking. I must have been high. But yeah, this just pathetic, just sad, delusional even. I mean, this really kind of puts a perspective and kind of paints a really very clear picture. This is a person that's never gone through any sort of hardships and has had everything handed to him on a platter, and just has no concept of just struggle of any kind. And yeah, this just shows that. It's just sad. And this is probably who's going to replace Kyle Busch in that 18 car, which is just embarrassing. Joe Gibbs has a whole history of pumping and dumping people in terms of who's in that team, organization, and probably the many other just awful just things in the past. But the other interesting question is, how long will Joe Gibbs live for to have Ty Gibbs' back? Interesting question. How long? I don't know, but it's interesting to think about. But yeah, that whole thing's just gross. Just absolutely gross. Disgusting. Insanity. And I mean, there's, it's so pathetic. I mean, what do I say? Do I have to actually explain the stupidity, the absolute buffoonery of that statement, like of his, like, do I really gotta explain it? Like, it's just absolutely just insane. What other word? Insane. I just said the same thing twice, but yeah, that's not even like the whole picture, because Allmendinger gets completely cucked out of the Final Four. A person that was basically the points leader like the entire season gets cucked out of it because of just of this format. So that's like a whole other like just notch of just things happening, and that's annoying. So you got that aspect of it, which annoyed me. Then we just got like just people just turning people, and just the amount of yellows and everything. It's just, there's that fine, very thin, fine line of like hard racing, beating and banging, and that was pretty much personified through Allmendinger and Justin Allgaier racing. They were hitting each other, but nothing was going over the line. They weren't just dumping each other. They were racing very hard. But I thought it was within the reason of being fair. That's how it should be done. Not just completely dumping someone. Like, some of this shit just gets just stupid. It just turns into like a Bowman grade, not just shit. And it's just that's not cool. And we got a lot of that at the end of the race, and especially at the finish. Remember NASCAR had a rule about that they just implemented apparently in their Microsoft Word document, like thou shall not wreck, intentionally wreck, because that was pretty clearly an intentional wreck, and they're supposed to get penalized. So remember that was a rule. I said like, oh, in theory that's a good idea, but are they going to enforce it? Yeah, probably not. My answer was pretty much solved very quickly. Clearly they're not going to enforce that. They're not going to do that. So yeah, another classic contradiction, because that's apparently a thing in the rules where you can't do that. Maybe it wasn't egregious enough. I don't know. I don't. It's just, that's another interesting point to talk about. But yeah, it's just like it's a shame, because most of that race was pretty all right. Most of that race was pretty good. And then we get to the end where it just turns into a demolition derby, and that's not fun. Who knows if the Cup race will be like that? I really doubt it. I mean, it could, but who knows? But yeah, that's just, yeah. There's no class in that, and the real whole reason I'm even making this video is because he literally like kind of blamed Jesus for his driving. It's like, that's why I'm making this video, because that's so just batshit crazy. Like, that is like Brian France levels of like just being delusional. Like, okay, maybe it's not to that extreme, but it's like, what? Like, why is that even brought up? I'm repeating my same points, but it's just like, I have to reiterate it, because it just, do I have to, like, anyone that has a face, I think, can understand that has nothing to do with what he did on track. Why? It's just, oh my god, it's just pathetic. It's just absolutely pathetic. And this is why, like, there's just so many drivers I just don't care for that have this shit attitude. Gregson's one of them. Obviously, Gibbs is now clearly, I mean, he was like this before, but it's like, yeah, but clearly one of those two. And I really didn't like Brendan Jones, because he just felt like more like a pay driver and didn't really do a whole lot, but I actually almost kind of respect him. He handled himself shockingly well, and he got out of this whole thing looking better than before. I mean, drivers after the race were like, hugging him or trying to give condolences. Like, a lot of people, I think, probably gained a lot more respect for him throughout all this. And that's when you wreck someone, or when you make me like appreciate Brendan Jones, something's wrong. Like, it's just wacky. But yeah, it's just, and like, even from Ty Gibbs' perspective, like, he's already locked in the playoffs. He's good. He doesn't theoretically have to even win the race. There's nothing inherently wrong with trying to win the race, but it's how you do it, how you approach it, the execution. This does nothing to help him. In fact, this actually hurts him way more, because now Brendan Jones can just yeet him at Phoenix. He could pull a Matt Kenseth and just obliterate him if he really wanted to. He could clearly end his championship hopes right then and there. Brendan Jones is not going back to Gibbs. He's going to Junior Motorsports, so he has no personal connection with Gibbs anymore, and he's got nothing to lose. So he could theoretically just clean him out if he really wanted to. And that's just another enemy that, Gibbs has to worry about. So this does nothing. It does nothing to benefit him. It just makes him look terrible. And then add on top of that the Jesus shit he's bringing up. we've like skyrocketed to like literal biblical proportions of just what the fuck you doing, bro? Like, holy shit. I mean, it's just I don't understand. I mean, it's just the mindset of certain drivers, like they just smelling their own farts, just living in this own just like dimension that I can only imagine being a part of. I don't know. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. He might pull back on it. He's gonna pull John Lennon. He's gonna pull back on that statement. But damage is done, and yeah, there's just no point. And yeah, his attitude is it's gross. It's gross, and it's nice to see almost like in unison, like everyone disavows what he did. That's kind of cool. I like that. when it's just like a community of just people, when you got Twitter to like almost unanimously agree, that's kind of magical. Because like that's like 95% of the time, like that's never the case. People are ripping on Bubba for like other publicly mentioning other stuff, and it's just like, well, what more do you want out of him? He basically like apologized to Larson, and then he's now talking to press, and it's like, I don't know, he's doing the right things theoretically, but I don't know. That's like a whole other like Twitter rant, but that doesn't really matter. That's not really the point of the video. But yeah, it's just, yeah, it just turned into a shit show. Allmendinger gets completely cucked out of the Final Four. He doesn't even have a chance to compete for a championship, even though he's been basically the best driver all year. And that's just kind of bullshit. I mean, he had like an average finish before going into Martinsville with like a 6.4 average finish. And now not going to be able to compete for a championship. Because Josh Berry, who's further down in points, got to win or something. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's just a shame. I hate this format. I hate this just one race winner take all shit. It's just stupid. Every year it gets exposed in one of the three series. I don't think there's ever been a season where like all three series a legitimate champion. That's been the point leader. Oh god, it's stupid. I don't think in all three series has been like that. But whatever. I'm done. I mean, the Cup race is probably going to be uneventful. This is probably going to be the most entertaining, interesting video to even record during this whole race weekend. But yeah, that's what do I gotta say? That's just absolutely ridiculous and just crazy. I mean, is it not? Why bring up like a Bible passage verse or even imply to be Jesus? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm done. I got nothing to. I'm not giving this race a review because it's a Xfinity race. I don't usually do these unless something crazy happens, and this kind of warranted a video on its own. So yeah, I'm done.